All right, so like at the beginning of the unit, as I mentioned, that we're going to be looking at two things, and it was, remember, Africa and history. So why do we study history? So I'm going to go through a lecture, and I just want you guys to be really focused. We'll be taking some notes right now in a bit. I'll let you know when we're going to be writing some things down. All right. You probably heard this quote before. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Okay. So essentially, if we don't study the past, we're gonna end up repeating the same mistakes. History helps us understand the world. Okay. And I emphasize in red. So history enables us to understand how the world worked then and how it works now. So it helps us understand how, for example, like how do we end up having all this amazing technology we have today? Or why is it that certain cultures clash with each other? Okay? History provides us with the framework of knowledge that we need to build our entire lives. It takes us closer to happenings and events in the past we can know about and learn how things can have changed ever since and who were the figures and personalities that helped change the scenario. Okay, this is just one of the biggest components of history. Okay, and again, we'll never ever have a clear picture of what actually happened in the past. Unrealistic, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Okay, but we're gonna see how we can use types of sources to help us get as close as possible to the past. History helps us learn of world events. Our world has bore witnesses to countless incidents of importance or otherwise. If one has to know of any of these happenings or events that changed the world, he or she has to dive to the depths of history books to know why a certain event happened. There's no better way to know the world like the palm to study history. All right, so if you look at this picture right here, it's a collage of pictures of very big, important historical events or of important figures. And I really love this picture because it actually gives us a sequence of events starting from one end to the most recent. Okay, they're pretty much in order from left to right. So you go here, okay, and it kind of zooms out to everything. Now I want you guys to look at this individual. Okay, by chance, if you do know, like, I'll be amazed. Do you know who this individual is? Okay, this individual is responsible for creating the 20th century. He actually made all of this happen. Okay, I know it sounds crazy, but he actually did. So let me explain. And again, this is my argument, my opinion in history. And again, we're gonna see that history is just biased. This individual changed the course of the human history for us. How that happened? In 1914, in Europe, there was a big friction between ethnic groups, and he was a Slav. His name was Gavril Princip. He was pretty much like a nobody, but he had this huge anger against the Austrian Empire because they wanted to create their own country. Anyways, so let me just fast forward. He ended up assassinating the Prince of Austria, which is a former country that used to exist in Europe. What that will do, that's going to send ripple effects. Okay, you're going to have Germany declaring war on the Serbians. Then you're going to have Russia declaring war on Germany. And then you're going to have England declaring war on Germany. You're going to have France getting involved. And then eventually the United States. And then you have the beginning of World War I. Okay? And despite that, even after World War I, we still had what? World War II. So, and then of course we have the Cold War, and then we had, Che Guevara, we had the communist revolutions, we had the Vietnam War, we had the Middle Eastern, a whole fragment of politicals changing, everything, all solely to one individual. So you see that just through the events of one individual, how they can change the whole course of history. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I really find that fascinating. Okay. All right. So this is just the actual picture, like you can see the whole thing. And also, we study history so we can know ourselves. Okay, this is Socrates, a philosopher. This is I know thyself. This is one of his famous quotes. It's just very condensed and plain and simple. All right, this is just a little side joke that I just found. I think it's really interesting about history. So in elementary school, they're gonna teach you like, here's a basic understanding of history and how the world works. Like Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue, in 1492, things like that. You enter high school. Actually, that's not quite right. Everything's actually a whole lot more complicated than that. And then in college, okay, everything you know is wrong, like completely everything that is touching history. And then lastly, aliens. Not necessarily true, but it just always goes to that, conspiracy and everything. Anyway, that was just a little side joke. All right, so going back to our do now. Go through your list of causes and effects. Now here's the actual causes and effects that happened to her. So the immediate causes of why she got a 50. She didn't have enough time to study, didn't get enough sleep, didn't go to tutoring, study sessions, and then she copied her homework from someone else. Okay, we've probably witnessed that before. We've encountered that. So right now, I'm sure you're thinking, well, she had it coming. Okay, the effects of her, the immediate effect, once she got her test and she looked at it, this is what she felt immediately. Okay, her grades goes down in math. Now she knows that she got a 50, and she claims, okay, I can't do it, and that's where I'm gonna be. At home, her parents get mad. She gets grounded. She starts going through depression, and she has to stay for tutoring to do corrections. Okay, that's the simple scenario. But can we zoom out more from this? Which is here. Can we zoom out more? Do we have more? Could there be more underlying causes? Could there be more underlying effects that will have on her based on that exam? Think about the individual that I just mentioned about how he changed the course of history just based on one thing he did. Okay, and the same thing with one individual in your life. If you're to go through this, you have your first exam. When you get it, can that change your course of history? Okay, there's more. So the causes of an event are not so simple. Most of the causes we just thought are the immediate causes. They just happen right before the event and directly cause it to happen. However, there's an underlying causes as well. Okay, and these are circumstances that exist that make the event likely to happen. All right, so this is what I mean. So this is what we went over: the immediate causes and immediate effects. But we also have underlying causes, like what are the hidden causes behind that? Okay, and then we have also the long-term effects because of that one exam. Okay, so we know the immediate effects. So she's grounded, she's being punished, but what's going to happen later on? All right, so here we go. So here's the underlying causes. Carolina has to take care of her 4 younger siblings since her mom is sick. At her old school, Carolina did not get to learn all the math she needed to be successful. Carolina's dad works far away, so she doesn't have a right to stay after for tutoring. And then people in Carolina's culture think that boys are better than at math than girls. Okay, and unfortunately, that's something that is a stereotype. Stereotype. It's something that is that little culture thing is something that is still being applied today. I've seen that happen a lot. And then for the long-term effects, Carolina loses her confidence and gives up at math. Carolina doesn't pass 6th grade, and Carolina decides she can't become a scientist because she can't learn math. So you can see how things that that you cannot see from that are hidden behind her background, her context about how she's being raised, could have an impact on her future. Okay, and again, there's more. Okay, the underlying causes have other causes of themselves. This happened in recent history, and this sets the stage for underlying circumstances. All right, historical factors. So, Carolina's grandparents face discrimination. Okay, and were not given the chance to have a high-paying jobs or a full education. Carolina's mother grew up in a poor area where lots of pesticides were used right next to their house. Eventually, the pesticides poisoned her, which led her to sickness, and then she can't work and provide for the family. And then in previous generations, women were treated less intelligent than men. Okay. So you can see that this can stand. You can zoom out even more. So right here we have, this is the present right here in the center. This is the present. This is the past, and this is further in the past. And if you can go further in the past, so you can see how even though things that happened in the past, you might be thinking like, well, that does not affect me. That was already in the past. So what? Unfortunately, things in the past do affect us. Okay. and it also affects our future. So just having awareness, you need to learn how to have a relationship with your past. Okay, you're gonna see how things that happened in the past. It's important to look, and this is why I became a history teacher. It's important to look at the past because this is one of the things where you learn. One, you're gonna learn about all this. Unfortunately, they're gonna learn about a lot of the scars that our ancestors carry. There's wars, there's discrimination, there's famines, there's disease, all these things. Okay, but that behind all of that, there's also beautiful things like the traditions that we have today. Okay, it's also to learn about our roots. Okay, so this is one thing that I want you guys to learn, just how to embrace your identity, who you are as an individual. Okay, all right, and there's actually more. Hold on. So we're also impacted by this past. As I mentioned, things that happened hundreds of years ago have consequences for us today. Now let's look even further back. Light-skinned Europeans conquered darker-skinned people around the world and treated them as inferior and giving them rise to racism. So we'll be talking about colonization in of Africa, and this also correlates to what happened in North and South America. And it's something that, again, it's an unfortunate moments in history where people used to have their own civilizations that were unfortunately destroyed because of conquest. Okay. Darker skinned people, including Carolina's ancestors, fought and lost much of their wealth and power. So you're going to see the effects of colonization where people lose all their wealth and they're forced to provide tribute to the mother country. All right, so why is English the most dominant language in the United States? Why is it the... Oh, sorry about that. Why is it the most practiced dominant language in the United States? Why is it the most practiced language? So some of you guys are already thinking. I want you guys to think about it. Why is it that, in the United States, English is the most dominant language? As some of you already know, you have English explorers from Britain who settled on Jamestown, Virginia in 1607, right here. And eventually they'll form the 13 colonies. Eventually they'll form their own country, and they're going to conquer all of this one right here. And hence why we speak English, okay? What about right over here? Why is it that in Mexico, all through South America, with the exception of Brazil, why is it that they speak Spanish? And again, some of you already know a little bit, okay? So the Spanish came over here, and hence the name Spanish Spain. They came over here to modern day Mexico, conquered, and they're gonna colonize all of this, and then convert. So we'll say convert the native people into the Christian faith, okay, by force, unfortunately. And they forced them to change their cultures and customs. And one of the things that they forced them to change was the language. So this is one of the reasons why right here we have English and over here we have Spanish. So again, you can see how even the lingering effects has on us today. As I mentioned to you guys at the beginning of the year, my parents are from Mexico. They speak Spanish. And because of the long-term history that my ancestors had, they were forced to learn Spanish, forced to become Christians. And this is something that still affects me today, okay? All right. So why do kids get summer vacation from school? Have you ever asked yourself that? Why is it that every summer we were off for 2 months? And of course you're pretty excited. Well, it's just we need a break or whatnot. Okay, so think about it for a few seconds. Why do kids get summer vacation from school? Okay, so this is the strange reason why. The answer lies in the history of the economy. So remember, when I mention economy, what are the two things you need to think about? That's going to be jobs and money. Okay, so back when the modern school system started, children were needed to help with the farm during the harvest season. Therefore, schools took breaks during the summer to allow kids to help their families and not fall far behind their studies. So it was simply because a lot of them were working. Their families were devoted to working in farms. The parents needed that extra help when it came to harvest season, and then the education system realized that in order to help the economy, it would be wise to let kids be off. Technically, not really off, but they're going to be helping their parents. So after that, after the economy started to get much more industrialized, they left it intact. So this is Strange